Hi, in this video, we're going to talk about how to make this beautiful pumpkin and succulent centerpiece accented with birch twigs. It's very on trend, very stylish, and you're going to love it. So stay with me. Hey, welcome back. My name is Petah Bashano. I am the creator and designer of the lifestyle brand Living Beautifully. And if you're new to my channel, be sure you hit the subscribe button and the little bell icon so you stay up to date with all of my new videos and information. In this video, we're going to talk about that beautiful pumpkin design you saw in the intro. And it's so popular right now. I think they came out 2 years ago and everybody's doing them. So here we are. I want to do one because I feel like a lot of people are giving out the wrong information. They're made with succulents, which are really desert plants, and they don't really require much water. Just to show you, I have this in my studio that I decorated a few weeks ago, and these have been, they were from a cut flower farm. So they came to me just like this, and they have not received any water, probably in 3 weeks. They really don't need it. So I really should be like just giving a quick mist, and they're happy. And they'll actually start to root if they had a water source. They'll actually grow towards the water, even if they're not sitting in the water. So yeah, they're really hardy. You don't have to cut the pumpkin out. You don't have to put soil. You don't need it. Believe it or not, I could take this petal off the bottom, a fresh one, and just hang that like in a bottle with water underneath of it. You can see YouTube videos on it, not from me, but other YouTubers. If I can find one, I'll put a link down below. But this will actually grow roots and grow towards the water, so they don't need water. So I feel bad people are like cutting things out, but this is my version of it. And how I started was I took some baking soda, like a tablespoon to a gallon of water. That's what I use. You may find something different for yourself is better. But I find baking soda is better, and I cleaned the pumpkin fairly well. Side note, you don't want this to be outside exposed to the elements. It can be outside if it's still pretty warm. These are warm weather succulents. They came from a garden center. They're not really meant for inside. Even these are cut flower succulents. They're meant for I'm sorry, they're not really meant for outside in the cold. They are meant for inside. Said that backwards. So when you do this, you want to remember that succulents don't like a lot of water. So the fact that if this, with this great divot in here, and you really want a pumpkin with that kind of divot in it, it's the easiest one to work with. If you've got a pumpkin that has this divot, and you can imagine rain just kind of settling in here, they're going to rot and die in a few weeks. It's not really that great. They will do well outside if the temperature stays pretty much above freezing. Even above that would be better. Probably at the 36-degree mark, they do probably the best. And if it gets that cold, just take it in at nighttime. But outside, great. Inside, even better. And maintenance is pretty easy. I use my little spritzer bottle, give it a quick squirt. Some things that I have set up here. I've already started taking the succulents out of the dirt. These came from a garden center. I did not buy these from a cut flower supplier. You certainly could use cut flower supply succulents if you want to order them from your local florist and the garden centers are out of them. Ideally, you want to get them from the florist. However, if they don't stock them, they're probably going to ask you to buy 10 at a time, which is reasonable because there's minimums they have to meet with wholesale. But what I did was, I have a trash can below my table. It's the best thing in the world. If you have a craft table and a rolling trash can, my God, my life changed. I mean, literally changed. So I just started peeling off. See how dry this is? I haven't watered these in like 2 weeks. I'm actually just peeling off. Yeah, your hands are going to get a little dirty, so you can wear gloves. I started peeling these down, and you're left with the root system. We're not really going to use all of that. Do you see that? And put them to the side. And the things that I'm using today are You can use sheet moss. I have this thicker mood moss that I'm going to use. A hot glue gun. This is the trick. You can use spray glue. I'm not a big fan of spray glue only because I'm afraid that it eats away at the flesh of the pumpkin. You can see the glue gun's on. Glue gun, and most importantly, a glass of water. Not because you're thirsty, but if you get hot glue on your finger, immediately into the water. Don't. The first thing you want to do is, and now you have hot glue here, so now you're like, It's not cute. I have a friend, Deb, who just did her sister-in-law's flowers for her sister-in-law's and her brother's wedding. They're not florists. They just decided that they want to be, hands-on and do it. Great. And the poor thing got hot glue on her cuticle. And they're all wearing masks because if you're watching this, it's 2020 and, there's a pandemic happening. She didn't know what to do with herself. She had it blistered beyond belief. If she had had that cup of cold water, bam, done. All right, so on to the craft. This beautiful white pumpkin, clean. And then what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to put a little hot glue here. I'm only going to concentrate on the area that I'm working, meaning I'm not going to put a lot of moss out to the side. A lot of times when you see this, you'll see that moss like just dripping everywhere. It's nice, but I'll put that after because you control everything. Don't feel like you have to do it there. I'm not really going to fill this in especially deep because I can always go back and add. So this is a great centerpiece to start in September when the pumpkins first come out, because these succulents will be around for a while. And if you stink at keeping plants alive, I do. I know you're probably shocked. You're like, you do this, and I kill plants. I'm better off with the ones that are cut from their mothers and they have no root system. I have orchid plants over here that are dying of thirst. These don't require a lot of water. Like if you forget to spritz these, they don't care. Like I said, these have been out for almost 3 weeks or 2 weeks, not a drop of water, and there's no root system. Okay, so I need another glue stick because these are short. I'm going to put a little bit more. And also, you kind of want to avoid touching your face like I just did with the moss because it's not the cleanest. It's just basically ripped off the earth, and Lord knows what bacteria is growing on it. So you want to do this on a counter that's either made for crafts. Cover your counter with paper. So you can see it really just, it looks like we're putting a toupee on a pumpkin. I mean, and the glue gun, speaking of toupee, I have a piece of cardboard down. So this is my craft table, and I keep a glue gun on the cardboard because there's nothing worse than having clumps of glue and then you slide things and it's like going over a cobblestone street. So here's that first one. There's a root system right there. I don't want the roots. It'll be fine look, it doesn't care. Hot glue. And I'm actually going to fudge this and make it look like it's shorter than it is. I didn't put all the moss into the very deep center of the pumpkin. I actually left the inside open just a little bit around the stem. This is a good idea for pumpkins that have no stem. Fortunately for me, I went digging and found every pumpkin with a stem. I'm that person. Knocking people over. That's a stem. That's mine. I digress. So here's the next. Now you can see here there's some wilted bits. There's some yellower, is that a word? A bit more yellow petals. They're squishy. They're just bound to rot. They got a little bit too much water from touching the soil. This is what happens. So I'm just going to neaten that up. It doesn't hurt it. They actually prefer it. Cut the excess off. Get rid of some of that extra dirt. Carefully put this on here without burning myself. I got some on the actual leaf of the succulent. It doesn't care. Now, I'm going to balance this. Everything's in sets of 3s, correct? So I'm going to put this over here. And look at that. I mean, like you're just, this took no time. Really, it's not really taking that much thought. It's just knowing the mechanics. This is another type of succulent plant. This cute little guy I got at the garden center. Really sweet. Totally dry. Hasn't had water probably. That guy's been around since this summer. And I think if I went outside, they were undercover, and if I watered them like 3 or 4 times, that was a lot. They just don't care. So now you always see the succulents with those beautiful tendrils hanging down. Well, there you go. There's a little tendril. This little cluster 3 is fantastic. I'm going to get rid of the root system. Some hot glue. You can tell I've had like 3 espressos today. My hands are shaking, and it's like 7 o'clock at night, and I hope I sleep. What was I doing? I was doing a ton of work for content for all of you. Since my brand is sort of new, I need to really put a lot of content out. So if you're loving the video and you think I'm completely goofy, please follow me by hitting that subscribe button. You do need an account with YouTube, but if you have Gmail, that's a snap. And hit the subscribe button with the bell icon, because the bell icon will tell you I got a new video. And of course, everybody's going to run immediately that I have a new video. Come on, he's got a new video. We have nothing better to do. Okay, there's little babies off to the side. They're adorable. We'll save those. And then I'm going to turn this around so you can see. I had a piece of moss that didn't look so nice. Pushed it right on top. They're glued in. So don't feel like it has to be glued on, that you're waiting for a hurricane to hit. And it's not going anywhere. Even in 20-mile-an-hour winds, this is not going to move, and it shouldn't be outside anyway. I am going to put this guy here because it's empty. I like this to be fairly dense with greenery, so there's a nice contrast. That's what I just did here against these smaller guys. But I was saying I like the contrast of the white against the green. And now the colors I picked out were all in the gray-green family, but then I went and picked out a little bit of these darker green with a yellow undertone. And it kind of balances this one, so everything kind of works with this white. Some succulents come in purple. They would look great on the orange pumpkins. This would look great on an orange pumpkin. This would look great on one of those pumpkins that have the brown, like, pimply bits on it. Not brown, green. Wrong color. There's little green and brown pimples on the pumpkins. I like ugly pumpkins. I just did a reel last night, part of a YouTube video that I'm putting out. I took a reel, and it's all covered in these gray, lumpy, it's the most beautiful pumpkin. I'm just not, I like things that are unusual and kind of like spark interest. So, what better way than to say, like, is that pumpkin gray and lumpy? It's like stinky cheese. You look at it and say, is that covered with mold? No. Well, the cheese is covered with mold. The pumpkins are not. It's just the way they grow. So back to the moss. So I don't have any moss here, so I'm going to tailor that. This is so dirty. I don't know why I don't like wearing gloves on camera. I can't do it. Outside in the yard, we're using gloves. On camera, I don't know what it is. I have like this really bad like aversion to having gloves on camera. I don't know what it is. Maybe opera length gloves. That's no. And then tiny bit more. I'm being very generous with the hot glue, so we're not picking moss up off the floor later. Don't be neat with the moss. Don't put it in a very circular pattern. Be circular, but think of it more like a daisy. Think of the petals of the succulent. It comes in, it comes out. Follow this kind of like high and low of the pumpkin. Think of the same idea, in and out. Make it look natural. As soon as you put a round, perfectly tailored piece of moss on this planter, it's going to look like it's somebody's toupee. I guarantee it. And it's a hat sitting on top of a pumpkin. It's not cute. Look at that. So easy. You're going to love doing it yourself. P.S. There are florists that'll make this for you, but what's the fun of that? Do it yourself. I'm going to add just one more because it's never enough. I'll show you how I could just cut that right off of there without damaging the whole plant. I want to keep the plant on a windowsill without using it and save it for next summer. It's still good. Everything's still intact. Now, there's that bit off to the side. And I have some of these really great birch twigs. And they're a pretty, if you can see that, they're a pretty kind of like a gray, powdery taupe color, nicer than brown. And they work really well with this grayishness from the succulents. So I'm going to keep adding some interest because that's nice, but we can do better. So bring it up a little bit. Don't be afraid to add to it. There's all kinds of things outside. Grab some acorns from your front yard if the squirrels haven't already devoured every bit of them. Grab some leaves, some clean leaves from outside, and tuck those in if they're if you're using an orange. I wouldn't do it with the white pumpkin, but I would do it with the color pumpkins like orange. Even a gray-green pumpkin would be beautiful with colorful foliage. And some of the gray-green or even the bluish-green succulents. I'm going to turn this around so I can pretend that I know what I'm doing. Oh, yes, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to save those. So this is just 3 small branches of birch. And what's great about like some dry flowers, these are still kind of pliable. You can pull them open and it stays. I'm going to bring this way so it kind of creates a shadow against, kind of creates a pretty shadow against the pumpkin. So I'm actually weeding out some of the little ones, even that one. And now I've got this pretty fork. And I thought I had something on my neck. That's why I just flicked my hair. I wasn't doing like the Jam Brady. I thought we have lanternflies. If anybody knows what a lanternfly is, that you're out here on the East Coast, you're suffering with them if they haven't made it to you yet. But there's lanternflies everywhere, and they're laying their eggs. Right now, we're at the middle of October. And for some reason, they like to jump on people. I guess because they're out of their mind now, and they have no idea like what's going on. It's getting cold. But that being said, I was freaking out thinking there was a lanternfly on my... And they're big. Look it up. They're like gray and orange. And they're not a native species, so they're like invading everything. So we spent half the summer in southeastern Pennsylvania and midway in Pennsylvania killing baby lanternflies. Sounds barbaric, but we had they destroy trees, they destroy grapevine, they destroy a lot of things, especially weakened specimens. Okay, bit. And as soon as I get this guy in there without dripping glue all over the moss. Yep. I just made that face that the kids make, like in kindergarten. You know, when they're cutting paper out, they're like, I never understood why we did that as kids, but... Okay, so care. This is like my favorite bit in the world. I feel so like... I feel like I'm a true horticulturalist. I'm growing specimen orchids in my greenhouse. If I was, they'd be shriveled and dead, so that's actually not happening. But all I would do afterwards is give the moss a little bit of a spritz, and the succulents, almost forgot, and they're good to go. That's all they need. Don't bother doing anything else to it, probably for another 2 weeks, and then you can give it another spritz. If you're worried that it's not getting enough water, you can go inside here with a spray bottle and spritz inside. Don't let it get saturated. The moss will retain some of the moisture and help keep moisture going on top of the succulents. So there you have it. Really not that hard. I hope and wish you try this for yourself. Do it now before the end of October. If you can't find pumpkins at the larger retailers, look for the smaller farmers. There's a lot... or produce stands that'll have pumpkins left afterwards for baking and whatnot for Thanksgiving. So I hope you enjoyed watching me make this crazy succulent pumpkin. And for more on Living Beautifully, you can follow me, Petah Bashano, at on Instagram. Great English. At Instagram. On Instagram at pizza.bashano. And for more on fashion, florals, entertaining, and style, you can follow me and LB at lb.style. Thanks so much.